Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Real and Raw Relationships Unfiltered, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything, and nothing is off the table, whether it's friendships, relationships, business, and other. We go there. Today, I'm going to be sitting down with Jodie Dhanota.
Dhanota.
All right, we'll try this one more time. Today, I'm going to be sitting down with Jodie Dhanota. Oh, God. Jodie Dhanota, who knows that pain all too well. She's lived through friendship betrayals that left her questioning everyone around her, left her questioning herself. And she's here to talk about how no one else is going to take care of you and nobody else is going to work on your friendships. Why friendship breakups fuck up so badly, how to rebuild trust when your circle falls apart. So if you've ever thought, I miss her, but I can't trust her again, or I didn't see it coming and I'm still angry, then this one is for you. So if you're ready to get real, get raw, let's go.
Welcome to the carnival. I'm the ringleader now. Won't hear a sound at all as I bury you 6 feet underground.
All right. Hey, how you doing today?
Hi, good. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, great to have you. So let's start with gut punch. What happened?
I have like 3 different stories to tell you, but the most recent one is with someone who maybe there's 4 now. Thinking about it like out loud, I think there's 4 now, but
Let it out, girl.
so let's go back to the third one first. And that was like when I was jobless. I was jobless from like 2022 to 2024, basically. I mean, I was getting like unemployment benefits and stuff, but there was a time where like EDD only gives you like so much, it's like it gets cut off.
Yeah.
And I was going to like this yoga studio, I was going to meditation, and I met someone there who was like a CEO. Like we had become friends prior because I am an author, so I have like 17 published books and I do editing. And she needed someone to do like edit her dissertation and stuff. So we became friends, and she's like, well, you're really good at writing, and if you need a job, like, I can like get you a position because like she's the CEO. And so I was the HR assistant in that company. And on May 14th, 2025, I submitted a doctor's note because I was out on medical leave for until June 2nd. But on May 16th, I got an email saying that your role has been terminated. And I'm like, wait, you let me go while I was out on medical leave? Like, you didn't even have the guts to like be like, okay, And she's like, oh, you didn't sign your position, whatever. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, I'm on a medical leave. Like, you literally cannot do this. It's illegal, first of all. And I mean, I'm not gonna do like any of that shit because it's just her getting more of my energy. And I'm like, I need to protect my peace. But it's like she knew that my mom wasn't working because like my mom was in too much pain, so she had to quit her job. I was working like 2 jobs, right? And then my dad, my brother and I, we were working in education as well. So we got laid off. So then that was the only source of income that I had at that time. And then she just was like, bye. And she didn't even have the guts to be like emailing me herself. She had like HR manager, like the new HR manager do it,
Yeah.
which is so crazy because I'm HR assistant. This is a startup. So there's only like 40, 50 people. So HR was me and the manager.
So
So
she didn't even give a shit enough to do it herself.
yeah, no, she didn't. But like in her email, like the HR manager was like, we've CC'd our attorney in this email. We closed this chapter with confidence in our future and all that stuff. And I remember I was reading it out loud to my therapist, and he's like, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. But yeah.
Call bullshit on all of it, right?
That, and then one email that she sent out to like everybody, like I read that email to my therapist too. It was like May 4th that she sent it. And even then he was like, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit.
And this is supposed to be one of your close friends?
She was a friend. I mean, I thought she was a friend, but that's why they say your coworkers are not your friends.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tricky business for that, right?
Mhm.
So what was it? What was that moment where you realized, okay, this friendship is over? Was it when
Oh,
you
that was
got
back
that?
in December. That was back in December because this is a company for like kids that have autism and stuff. So I got certified as an RBT. I did the 40-hour training and everything. And I asked her, I was like, hey, now that I'm certified and I have a certification in HR analytics, can you pay me the same as everybody else? And then she literally, I like had a lot of people read it and they're like, it's very professional, it's very kind, and this and that. And she gave me a write up because I said, like, I kind of talked to her in the email about like my feelings. And I was like, I have a master's. I'm starting with like $18 an hour, and people without like a bachelor's were making $30 an hour. And
And she had you way below that
yeah, she had me at
at
$18 an
18.
hour, and people without bachelor's were getting 30.
And you confronted her about that?
In a sense, I did, but I kept it very like professional. I had ChatGPT. I was like, "Hey, can you make this very kind, very professional, like all that,
Our best friend,
right?"
the emotional assistant, make this not sound like a bitch.
Basically, and then she gave me a write up instead. She like wrote
For
cut my hours instead
for what?
for like talking about like expressing what I'm feeling. And then she's like, "Oh, I want everybody to talk things out," and I'm like, "No, you don't. You don't want people to talk things out because the admin team, the literally everyone, like the manager, the biggest like BCBA, HR manager, admin manager, they're all her best friends, like people that she grew up with. So if
Yeah.
you have a problem, you can't come to HR because you know that she's just gonna not give a fuck.
Yeah.
So
So,
I realized in December, I was like, oh yeah, she is not my friend.
yeah, definitely. So how did you handle that?
In December, I was like, okay, I took matters into my own hands because if your hours get cut, you can file for unemployment. So I filed for unemployment and I was getting money technically from them still.
So, okay, so I have to know. So, were you blindsided by this, or did she give you some indicators that, like, maybe I wasn't an actual friend? I know there was like
It
the
was
write
I was
up and then the,
blindsided. I was definitely blindsided because she had taken me to like she knew like my situation, like being jobless. She knew about my mom and everything. So I was very like blindsided by everything, and that's when I was like, you know what? Literally in December, I started saving documentation because I was like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna need this. And
yeah,
then 16th, like my emails were already like closed off, but like I'm so like that gut feeling that's like you need to start saving shit.
yeah, yeah,
I did. I started doing that like in December. And then like come May, like 16th, like my email was closed, right? Because I guess they thought like, oh, she doesn't have access to anything. And I'm like, girl, I'm 10 steps ahead of you. I already got everything saved that I
yeah,
needed.
yeah, yeah,
But then I was like thinking, and I was talking to my therapist. I was like, this is so rude. Like, I'm going to sue them and I'm going to do this and that. And he's like, is it worth your energy? And I was like, no, it's not. And then I was like, oh, wait, it's actually not.
yeah. Well, so I find that very interesting. So I am one of those people like, oh, it's not worth my energy.
Mhm.
So is it that it wasn't worth your energy, or who do you think is getting the most power from that?
Honestly, I think in a sense, if we put it, I think I kind of did because it's like me telling her, like, I don't give a fuck about you anymore.
Yeah.
Like, but she still is like, okay, so like I said, we met in meditation, right? I don't go to that yoga studio anymore, like, because I don't want to see her. Like, I don't want to deal with anything. I don't want to hear anything, right?
Yeah.
But my friends still, like, one of my mutuals, like, she went to the studio. She meditated last Thursday, and she said, like, the boss was saying that she's having employee problems, and it made me think of you. And this is actually like I'll actually just read you what I wrote as the response.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah. And I said, she's like, how are things with insert name here? at last night's meditation, she mentioned having employee problems. None of us asked her to emphasize, but it made me think of you. And then I said, I haven't talked to her since it all went down. I blocked her and moved on. Um, I don't have time for people who bring chaos. If she's still talking about me, that says more about her. I've been minding my peace and handling life, but it's cute that she's still talking about me if I'm the one she's referring to, because like I dead ass hadn't talked to her in a month or anyone that works there. So I'm just wondering if karma's catching up now.
Well, and so one thing I teach in my program, because I have an 8-week program, it's a real and raw relationship reset, and it's basically resetting your entire relationships with yourself, with your significant other, kids, family, whoever, right? Friendships. And one of the biggest things that we talk about is um, letting somebody else have well, essentially the energy, but
Mhm.
letting somebody else have power over you, right? So for that whole situation, I find it very interesting because she everybody is going to have the same issues, right, with her. And
Yeah,
it makes you wonder what the fuck is going on in her head, right?
yeah,
So it sounds to me like she's had to be the boss and had to tell everybody else what to do all the time. And so her empathy and her emotional intelligence and her ability to regulate in situations has kind of depleted. And she's kind of just has this robotic response to things.
yeah. I see that, especially in like meetings and stuff that I've attended. She didn't want to do any of the work because, like, as a BCBA and as like a startup, we were very limited in the amount of BCBAs that we had. So
Hmm.
sometimes they're like, oh, we need one. And she's like, okay, who's going to do it? And then they would just look at each other like, she's like, I'm not going to do it. She's like, if I have to do it, then maybe. But she's like, I don't want to. And it's like, dude, come on. Like, because if I
Yeah.
was like a CEO, right? I think she is a boss, but I would be a leader and I would be like, who needs me? Like, where do I need to be right now?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And she's the very much the opposite of that.
Right.
She only cares for people that are her close friends. And it's crazy because like they have clinics now, like in-person clinics. And one of the friends that I had that still like works for them said that people are telling the newcomers to stay on her like the boss's good side because
Hmm.
if she finds out that you don't like her or something of that sort, she will get rid of you. Like you have to like her.
So, getting back to the whole friendships aspect,
Mhm.
what did you learn from that whole experience?
Honestly, I think I'm gonna like going forward to like the next position I get, it's just like having in mind that your coworkers are not your friends and don't trust anybody here. You don't need to be going out to lunch or going out to like anything with any of these people because at the end of the day, you just don't know. It's kind of like that wall has been built now around
Hmm.
friendships. Because I mean, like I said, that was the third one, and there's like possibly a fourth one too, kind of. So
So,
now it's like that wall's been built.
so this wall, what do you hope to accomplish by
Honestly,
having walls up?
now it's just like who cares enough to like break it? Who am I gonna let in? Like pick and choose.
Pick and choose.
Yeah.
So being more selective with who you let in your circle.
Yes.
So when um when I left my last job, I we won't get into all the specifics because I have so much I could tell you. We could do like, well, I have a podcast, so there's that. But I have a crazy background, crazy life. And the job that I was at, I had a lot of the same issues, right? Where you thought that that person was your friend and you thought that they were there for you, and then people were talking shit about you behind your back, and then
Yeah.
they're giving you shitty shifts because you don't kiss their ass,
Yeah.
and it all goes back to, for me, it always goes back to hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
And part of the problem for me was that we look at us as the victim,
Hmm.
and it's hard for us to flip it, right? Because we're like, well, we're going through this and we have this. I had three kids that are like super dysregulated, right?
Yeah.
And I was shitty at relationships. And so I would come in super dysregulated and I'd be all emotional, right? And then we make those friendships with people just because it's convenient, just because they're there. But when we take our view, like our own emotions, and when we take our emotions out of it and we just look at it from an outside view, when
Yeah.
we look at it and we see that there's more than one perspective, and it's not that this person is bad or this person is bad, it's just that they're on a different fucking journey, right?
Right.
So, what do you see friendship wise? What do you see now with friendships? What are you noticing um that you want outside of what everybody else has told you you need
Mhm.
to have as a friend, and how you need to be as a friend? What are you noticing in that?
Well, one thing I noticed recently is like who is going to reach out to you first? You know,
Hmm.
after I left this company, I only had like one friend there, and it's always me reaching out to her.
Yeah.
Like first she like we would text back and forth,
Like
and
if
she
you
was
stopped messaging her, there
then
would be
yeah,
no message.
basically,
Right.
yeah. And recently on like Father's Day weekend, like that Saturday, my dad had a heart attack, right? So it's like who messaged me, and I was like, you know what? There's that saying, right? Like when you're going through something, people's true colors are gonna come out. And I feel like I kind of noticed that because it's like who reached out, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, one of my friends who's like my best friend, she lives like 40, 50 minutes from me, and she's the only one that's like reaching out. Like we're going back and forth, and that's it.
So what are you noticing with yourself then? What do you know? How often do you reach out about their lives? I'm curious.
I've been reaching out to like my friend that like worked at the company. Like
Hmm.
I've been like, hey, do you want to have a phone call? Like, whenever you're free, like let's catch up and stuff like that. Like constant. Like I'm like that type of person that at least like once a month wants to like check in on my friends, or at least twice a month, you know? I mean, this time it was once a month because of how busy this month was. But at least twice a month, I try to reach out and I'm like, hey, do you guys want to plan anything for this month? Like, what do you guys want to do? And stuff like that. But then after everything happened, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to reach out this month. Let's see who else does it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So can you give me another example? I know you said you had four. Can you give me another example for friendships?
So I'll do the fourth one because that one is another mutual. It's kind of related to like the friend that I'm talking about because we also met at meditation. And this is like I'm the friend that will like listen to you vent and like be there for you whenever you need. And then this one time I needed someone, so I told her I was like, hey, this happened and this is how like people like these other two people reacted. And she just called me childish basically. And I was like, I looked at it and I was like, what? Like I'm always listening to everybody else, but when it's my turn, I get called childish. So when I was having that conversation with my therapist, I literally had to say, I have had this friend, like have had. And that's when I knew right then and there. I was like, wait, if I'm questioning whether this person is still my friend, then you're not my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And notice that we tend to, do you notice a pattern of the kind of friends?
Mhm.
So for me, what I would do is I'd go for the friends that I could fix, the ones that I could, oh, let me fix your problem, let me do this,
Yeah.
right? And then I would essentially emotionally dump and give my shit. And
Mhm.
they're like, oh, ooh. but it's because they're not regulated enough, right? It's not necessarily that they're a bad friend, it's that they're super dysregulated.
Yeah.
So, and that's not to excuse the behavior, right? It's more so to understand. So, to understand your what's the word I'm trying to use? To understand your own significance
Yeah.
essentially is so what what are you noticing in your own significance, like your matter, like how much you matter?
Um, Honestly, I feel like it's been like transactional in a sense, like transactional friendships, because even like the first one, like the first time that it happened, that was so, like I said, I'm an author and I love to help like indie authors, right? Because I'm self-published too. And there was this author who like I literally edited her entire book and I wanted to put myself down in the acknowledgments as the editor. And then she just deleted my name and I was like, hey, where's my credit? And she's like, oh, like, I didn't want to put any acknowledgments or anything. And I was like, you kind of have to give people their credit, like not just me, but like the person that designed the cover of the book, the person that did the layout, your beta readers, and like I'm like, I understand, like, she's not new, like she had published a book, but like her second book, and I was like on my 13th one already. So yeah, and I was telling her, I was like, hey, this is very important because a lot of people use that to get more clients or to build their resume and stuff. And
Yeah.
she's like, why are you doing this to me? This and that. And then she just like blocked me. And I was like, girl, like I remember like I had a panic attack too because I was like so frustrated. That was the first like time. And I was like, oh my God, all my credit, like what do I do? How do I prove it? Because I had like other people too. And I was like, hey, I'm working on one. Like I'll show you everything that I did. And then I didn't have access to the book or anything anymore either. So I was just like, what do I do now? Right. And I had a panic attack like then and there, but then she messaged me. She's like, why are you doing this to me? Like this and that. And I was like, girl, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then on my Goodreads, she actually went to the book, like, because we traded books and we're like, we'll just edit. I gave her the credit in my book and it was published. But I guess she like waited for my book to be published to get her credit and then delete my name, right? And then on my Goodreads, she put like 1 stars on like 4 books. Like one of them she worked on, and 3 of them like that were just there. She just went and put 1 star reviews. And I was like, what the hell is happening?
So what do you think is happening?
I feel like she just didn't want to give the credit. And she's like, oh, I did all this by myself, right?
Right.
And I was like, you know what? If you're gonna like
Which says a lot more about her than you, right?
yeah, but I was like petty. I still gave like a 5 star on her book, but I changed it. I changed the description, like where you leave the review. And I was like, this author put a 1 star on the book that she reviewed, but I kept it 5 stars. And I was like, come go check out my work. Like, look, she put the 1 star. And then so then basically I'll just send people to my page.
Nice.
Mhm.
Nice. How's that? Well, how did that feel for you to actually, because I know with the previous friend, it was like, well, I'm just gonna leave it alone. They're not worth my energy. But the problem is that when you just let people keep doing things like that
Yeah.
and you don't put your foot down and do the work,
Mhm.
right? Because what would you say? Say, do you have kids?
No, I don't.
Okay, so if you did have kids, what would you say to your kid if somebody was doing that to them? You'd want them to fucking fight back, right? You'd want
Yeah.
them like, well, I have kids, and so I'm that person. Like I've learned the most from my kids, where I'm like, no, fuck that. I'm going down to the school. I'm gonna talk
Yeah.
to someone. Like we're gonna fucking go down, right? So
Yeah.
notice how we fight for other people, but then when it comes to us, we just shut down, and we're
Yeah.
like, oh. No, they're not worth our energy. No, I'm just not going to do this, right? So what's the difference in the feeling with what happened with the first story and the second story, where you're like, Well, I was kind of petty, but were you actually petty? Because you were like, you were just speaking the facts. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. I mean, if we do go back, like I said, like everything started with like because I was an editor, right?
Hmm.
So for like the CEO's dissertation, like her PhD, I worked on it, right?
Yeah,
And I mean, like when I say I'm not putting my energy, I mean like into the company.
got you.
We went to the same university, me and her. I still have my university account, even though I graduated with my master's in 2021. She just graduated, like she just walked in 2025. But I was like, you know what? If you're gonna fire me, we're gonna play. Like, you want to go? Let's go. So what I did, I took screenshots because they're on my personal email, not on my work email. So I took screenshots and I called student conduct and I was like, hey, you have this student. This is her major. This is her name. She turned in her PhD, like her dissertation, with my work. Period. And then the chair just emailed me last week, and she was like, hey, I'm the chair, and there's an open investigation going on, so I just wanted to get some more information. And I was like, cool, here.
I
I was
love
like,
that.
yeah, I was like, does she think that just because I'm not going after the company, I'm gonna sit around and do nothing? I'm like, girl, I
Yeah.
have a second hand. Like,
See,
you know,
that's what I wanted to hear.
yeah,
Not
I
that I'm like, I want to hear you be an ass. No, I want to hear like people sit there and they think like I have to be a better friend. I have to
yeah,
release my energy. I have to not let and that's just not the fucking case because every time somebody sits there and they say, I'm just not going to fight this. I'm just going to No, you're literally giving them all your power, right? Because you're losing your sense of self
yeah,
every single time you let somebody else control your reactions and actions. And
mhm.
so people take that and they misconstrue it and say, well, I'm just not going to react in any way. And I'm like, okay, but now you're fucking with your own brain because you're telling your own brain that you're not allowed to have feelings and emotions.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, I have everything documented because I'm just like, when if she does anything else, I'm just like, I'm waiting for that other shoe to drop because she tells like they told me like my other friends, they're like, hey, she's still mentioning like an employee in meditation. I'm like, girl, I dare her to say one more thing because I have everything documented and printed.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm ready. And then like the going back to like what I said, right? This is literally my wallpaper. It says if you can't change the cards you're dealt, change how you play the game.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was
Yeah,
like, all right, I'll go
definitely.
after your dissertation first. You want to play? Let's go.
Right. I love that. I love that. And it's so important because you can sit there and you can fight these battles, but people try the definition of insanity, right? They try to do the same thing and they expect different results. And they try to do this and they try to do this. It's getting creative. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. Now, on a friendship aspect, when you look at the two situations, what
Mhm.
is it? What's one boundary that you have now in your friendships that you didn't before? I know you mentioned like my time, are they there for me? Are they actually, but what is one actual boundary that you have set?
I just want to see like who I could like trust, I guess, like more. Kind of like you got to show me that you're trustworthy now.
How do they do that?
That's what I want to know too. I'm just like how do they do that? But I'm like I have to figure it out because I can't keep getting like betrayed over and over and I'm like this is four times already, you know.
Well, it's getting to the core of it,
Yeah.
right? Because the problem that we do is that we do surface level. We do the
Yeah.
yoga, we do meditation, and I'm certified. I'm a
Mhm.
certified trauma informed coach. I do relationship coaching. I'm almost have my bachelor's for, which is my fourth degree for behavioral health science. I love learning. I have my nursing degree. So basically, what I do is I take all that knowledge and I get to the fucking core
Yeah.
because we go to the surface level and we say, oh, let's just meditate. Let's just
Yeah.
stop and breathe. And people sit there and say, I'm so fucking self aware. And you're like, yeah, and what the fuck are you going to do with it? Because you can be the most self aware person in the goddamn world and not know what the fuck to do with that self awareness. I'm just triggered. Actually, I don't trust you. But what the fuck are you going to do with it? right?
Yeah.
How are you going to let people in, right? So how can they get in if you have a wall?
That's true too.
You can't get in.
Yeah.
You're literally saying that what would you do if somebody came up to you and said, "You can be my friend, but you have to earn it. And you have to earn my trust." And they're like, "Bitch, I don't even know you, the fuck."
Right?
Right? That's what you would say, right? That's what I would
Yeah.
say. I'd be like, "Who are you? Who are you to tell me anything?" Right? But
Yeah.
we expect that from somebody else as if we're more important than anybody else, as
Right.
if we have more to give, right?
Yeah.
And it's what we do is we do this pendulum swing where we go on this side and we become Captain Save-A-Ho trying to save everyone and trying to understand everyone and try, oh, well, they're just going through something. Yeah, but they're also being a bitch, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
then you go to this side and you're like, well, I'm going to say fuck all those bitches then, right? And then you're sitting there drinking by yourself, having martinis by yourself and fucking miserable and faking it. And then you're
Yeah.
sitting there and saying, I just value myself. I'd rather hang out with myself. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't want to hang out with yourself. You want fucking companionship. You want friendships. You want romantic relationships. You want all those things.
Hmm.
But in order to do that, you can't do the superficial. You got to do the deep shit. So,
Right.
how how can you let somebody in and still have that boundary? I want you to think about it. Instead of somebody telling you, right? We have therapists, we have
Yeah.
counselors. I've had 4 different therapists. I'm fucking I and every single one except for the very last therapist has told me they have asked my opinion on things. They're literally like, one asked me how to have more, how to stop being so insecure. And I was like, bitch, this is about me. What the fuck? But it's not about having a therapist and having a coach and this and that, right?
Yeah.
My coaching is unlike any other because I'm very unfiltered and raw. I'll tell it like it is and I'll make you fucking cry. But you're going to get your shit fixed and you're going to sit there and you're going to be like, holy shit, my relationships have actually changed. Instead of
Yeah.
sitting there and saying, I deserve better. Yeah, so do they. Everybody deserves better, but we sit there and we think we're more special. So
Right.
how do you think that you can trust, let somebody in to be able to have that trust happen?
I think if they can like say that I'm sharing like something, right? And it's like this like if I say this is a boundary that I will not cross and they respect it, that's when you kind of know it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I won't do that, right? That's when you know, like, okay, that's somebody that I can keep around.
So what's a boundary?
For
Can
me,
you
like one of the things that I like, even when it comes to dating, right? It's like I know like my top three like non-negotiables, which is like because there's like heart conditions that like run in my dad's side of the family. So like non-drinking, non-smoking is a non-negotiable, right? Because I don't want to like, see my like life partner if we get married, kind of go through everything that I've been through with my grandpa and my dad and my uncles and like everything, right? So that's like a non-negotiable. And it's like if you can respect that, or even if somebody's like, okay, like if I can stop drinking for you or something like that, that's like when you know that you want to keep this person around.
So for me personally, and this is just my opinion, I feel like I would never want to ask anybody to do anything for me because
Okay.
you know what happens? I was married for 6 years, and what happens is they throw that shit in your face every single time you fight. I fucking quit drinking for you. I quit going to bars for you. I quit this for you. And then they fucking make you feel so guilty. But you're like sitting there and you're like, yeah, but this was your choice and you did it. Yeah. And it
Yeah.
was also a term and condition,
Yeah.
right? So, what would be think deeper
Uh-huh.
if you thought deeper, not what they do, but who they are.
Right. Okay.
No pressure, girl. You take your time.
Oh, I like, um, who would they be? That's a great question, actually. I think I'm like gonna sit and think this out like forever. Now, I'm just like, who
Well,
would you?
that's the beauty of, right, is that
Yeah.
it's supposed to be like my program is I have a monthly membership as well, and it's called the BFF Society, where you boldly face your fears and be your own BFF. And so we meet biweekly coaching calls and we stopped for the summer, but that's literally what we do is we sit there and we hash out all the shit that we're dealing with. We have bitch fits and they're called own your shit sessions. And
Uh-huh.
we sit there and we talk about all the shit that's pissing us off, and then we switch it and we put the camera back on ourselves, because the problem is that we say they have this issue, they have this issue, they have this issue, and we refuse to look at what issues we have. And then if somebody calls us out on our shit, we're like, fuck you, bitch. You can't talk to me like that. Right. But then we want people to just be okay with who we are
Yeah.
because we don't want to work on who we are. Right.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a continuous thing. But what do you think? I'm really curious, and I know my listeners are really curious on what do you think if you take out the filter and you get real and raw with yourself, full disclosure, not full disclosure, but full honesty, brutal honesty. What do you think that you can do to take down a boundary deeper?
Honestly, I'm not sure about that. Like, these are like questions that I probably should be like writing down and be like, okay, I need to think about it. Um, uh,
Well,
the one
let's
thing
do
that
it this way. Let's do it this way. Um what do you think that you can offer in friendships? And here, we're going to actually write it down right now in this moment on this podcast. What do you think you offer in friendships?
well, from what I've done is like offer like being a listener, offer, and I'm the eldest, like in my cousins and everyone, so just being like that older sister to like my friends group too, because I'm just like I've so used to playing the role of the eldest. So just being like, okay, this is what you need to do this, do that. See, I can give advice, but it's like, why can't you take your own advice that you give to other people?
Because you are trained, right? You are
Yeah.
trained to be the oldest. So my oldest daughter, she has a lot of stress a lot of times because she feels like she has to be the oldest and be the
Mhm.
listener and help everybody else. And I have to remind her, you're allowed to have feelings and emotions. You're allowed to sit there and say, this is a boundary, you're crossing it, you're hurting my feelings. But what we do is we hold it in, and then we lash out.
Oh yeah.
We hold it in, we hold it in, and then, or we sit there and we tell everybody else how pissed off we are, and we can't even fucking say it to their face.
I did that recently actually with my when my dad had his heart attack and I was the one like at home taking care of everything. And I got so like overwhelmed and I would just like break down. And then I was like, my brother's here too. I'm like, can you help me around the freaking house? And I was just like,
Yeah,
oh. And then I told him like when we go for walks, and he's like, why were you crying? And I was like, because I got no help. Like literally, I was like, I got no help. I was like, I was in the room when all the nurses came rushing in. So that kind of like traumatized me a little bit too, because it's like, he's having a heart attack and all of a sudden there's all these nurses and I'm just like, what the hell is going on? Like it's just it happens so fast. And then, you come home and it's like, okay, dinner needs to be made and I'm in California, so it's like really hot. So it's important that like all the vegetables are like watered like every single day. So I'm just like, okay, I gotta do that. I gotta do that. I gotta check this off. I gotta check that off. And then it's like the next morning, back into the hospital so I can translate and stuff. And I'm like, okay. And then I know one day I was there from like 9 to 4. And I was just like, what are we doing? What's next? What am I doing here? Who do I need to talk to?
right. Because you have all the lists. You have to do this. You have to do this in your mind.
Yeah.
You have to be everything for everybody else. And then what do you have left for yourself?
Honestly, like, I feel like my cup was empty. You know, it's like
Yeah.
that thing, like you can't pour from a cup that's empty. And I was like still pouring into the people because
Oh
like
yeah.
now that he's home, all the guests are coming and they want to check in on him and
Mm-hmm.
everything. Like this past weekend, I like I cried in front of my aunt too, and I was like, "Oh my God, like I can't thank you for like bringing all the food because like I feel like I can finally sit down today and just talk to people, you know?"
Mm-hmm.
So like that happened, and I was just like so freaking overwhelmed. And I remember like my sister, she had brought her boyfriend to the hospital with her, and I was like thinking, and I was like, "Damn," I was like, "I really wish I had my person to lean on right now too." And that just added to me feeling more alone because I'm like, okay, I'm doing everything by myself. And then I was just like, like I wish I had that one person where I could just be like, okay, I just need to sit here for a second, collect my thoughts, and we can do this together, you know. But I didn't have that either. And like friendship wise, I was like, I don't have a outlet or anything. I only had like one friend that actually like found out and like reached out to me and everything. So I was like, okay, that kind of tells me how many people, I mean, I understand people are busy, like, but for me, like whenever I
You're
have,
fucking busy.
yeah,
You're
everyone,
fucking busy, right?
yeah. And I was like, if I found out like with like one of my friends whose mom had like I think it was like a seizure or something, and I was like, I'm like, it takes me like 2 seconds, like it's just pick up the phone, type, hey, how's your mom? Period. Like, hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long does it take to text somebody? And I was like, if you need anything, call me, text me, whatever. Okay, that's it, done. And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, my mom's good. She's home, period, done. That's it. And I was like, how long does it take you to text someone? That's like what I was thinking in my head too. I'm like, I
It
have
took me a
Instagram.
week to text somebody the other day. I messaged them and I didn't even realize I haven't messaged them in a week.
Oof. Yeah.
Right? So it's not, so what I tell my kids is that it's not always about you.
Yeah.
It's not always about us. It's not always about me. I sit there, even with my members sometimes, if I'm telling them, hey, are you going to be on the call tonight
Yeah.
when we have our sessions? And if they don't respond, I have to remind myself, just because they don't fucking answer doesn't mean it has anything to do with you.
Right.
And if it does have something to do with you, if they don't tell you directly, they don't fucking assume, right?
That's what I
So,
say too. Now,
yeah.
I'm just like, you know what? We're adults. If you have a problem with me, you can communicate it. And if you can't, then you don't have a problem with me.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is that like looking at it from that perspective, and if that friend is
Mhm.
not providing that emotional support, then fucking provide the emotional support yourself. Can I ask you,
Mhm.
when was the last time you just hugged yourself or grabbed your own ass?
Hugged myself
Yeah,
yesterday.
just like completely hugged yourself and told yourself that you're safe.
Oh no, I just hugged myself and I was like, it's gonna be okay. We got this. We got this. It's gonna be
Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you do that often?
I do. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Mhm.
So, can you take yourself out on friendship dates?
I have. I've taken myself and like some friends too, but like I've been now like more home because like of my dad. So I've been home a little more and like yesterday I was supposed to go out with my cousins to like Monterey and just like have the day because my cousin is she got married and moved to Chicago, but she was visiting. So we were supposed to all go together, go hiking, go to the beach and stuff. But then it's like dad started throwing up like twice and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'll stay home, like that stuff. And it's like this weekend now I made plans to go because there's this place in it's like about 50 minutes away from us, and it's just all food trucks from like different cultures in one place. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go check it out. I don't care what anybody says, I'm going. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
treat myself this weekend.
that's great. That's great. So, but how, how can you portray that when you're looking for companionship, whether it's friendships, romantic, whatever?
Could you like reword the question?
Yeah. So essentially, all these people that, in your mind is like, they're betraying me. There's all this betrayal.
Mhm.
How can you not betray yourself and actually hold yourself while letting somebody else in?
How can I do that? That's another question that needs to be written down. I'm just like, I need a pen and paper right now. But I think for me, just making sure like that I'm in a sense like taking care of myself, like following my self-care routines and not changing like my beliefs and values for like other people. And I feel like I think a lot of the friendships that I held had different like values, like the way they grew up didn't match the way like I grew up, or like our beliefs were different and stuff like that, which like was not necessarily like something like I was like, okay, like you think like this, that's fine. Everybody grew up differently, right? Nobody grew up the same way. So for me now, I think I'll just kind of be a little more picky. I hate to say it, but I'll be a little more picky. I'm like, okay, you said something I didn't like, or you said something that doesn't sit right with me, or you made a joke about something and it was uh disguised as like disrespect in a sense. And one thing about me, like all the way until like 2023, 24, I was a people pleaser. So like I've been changing a lot of that, you know.
Working on
And
the people pleasing.
yeah, I've been changing a lot of that. So that's why a lot of these betrayals, it's like, oh, that's why. Because it's like I had to like do the things that you guys wanted and, do it the way you wanted it done. But now with like everything, I'm just like, okay, try me,
Yeah.
you
You're
know.
like, I don't actually have to do any of that,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I'm kind of like unlearning. And it's very hard because it's like you grew up people pleasing, right? I,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm the eldest cousin on my dad's side, and then I'm the eldest female on my mom's side. It's only like 6 months difference between me and the actual eldest, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, oh my God, like do it this way, do it that way. And people will call me and be like, hey, I need some advice. And I'm like, okay, what do you need advice on? Let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You
Yeah.
give and give and give. And then because they don't give and give and give, you're like, well, they're a bad friend. They don't care.
Yeah.
Or they say something that hurt your feelings instead of realizing that it may not be about you. You're like, you feel very attacked, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, I'm giving you everything. Why would you ever say anything bad about me, right?
Right.
So, um, what, since you're on the show and we need to wrap up,
Yeah.
you're on the Real and Raw Relationships Unfiltered. What's the realest lesson that you've learned from all of this?
Honestly, those questions that you're asking me, I need to like do like some work, like some shadow work or something, for
Yeah.
that. But then also like,
So
you know, when,
you should just join our group. I'm just saying.
yeah, for sure.
You would definitely love it. The girls would love you. Because they all deal with it. We all deal with it. We deal with friendship betrayals. We deal with trying to micromanage everybody else and their reactions and actions. And
yeah,
we can't actually sit with ourselves.
right, yeah. But then also like you telling me like, all the petty stuff, I guess petty stuff that I've been doing, it's like, it's okay to do that too, because you gotta tell like put people back in their place. In a sense.
Yeah. Well, it's because we don't want to we're like, we label ourselves, we're a people pleaser, we're an introvert, we're an extrovert. I fucking hate labels because to me, or your attachment style, I am
Yeah.
anxious attacher. You're whatever the fuck you choose to be.
Right?
Essentially, we limit our own beliefs and our own potential and our own value. We limit all of that because we sit there and say we can't possibly be this person. We're not narcissists. Yes, the fuck you are. We're all narcissists. We think about ourselves and we don't think we have narcissistic traits,
Mhm.
right? But it's so much easier to label other people and say, well, they're an asshole or they're a cheater and they betrayed me as a friend, than to actually just realize, okay, but I'm not choosing the right partners friendship wise
Right.
because I myself am not choosing myself first and foremost. And the more that we choose ourselves, essentially, like you were saying, right? The more we choose to not be a people pleaser,
Yeah.
the more we can sit there. But then you go like we were talking about the pendulum swing.
Yeah.
So it's about finding that balance and that moderation so that we can have those boundaries and we can sit there and we can let somebody in emotionally. And when they hurt you, you can say that your feelings are hurt without feeling like they crushed your spirit and your soul,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Love that. I love that. So, to end out, is there anything you would like to end with and express to our listeners today?
Honestly, I just hope that you guys enjoyed listening to this and that, you picked some things up and hopefully you had a pen and paper with you too.
And with that, guys, seriously, you know what? Come on the podcast, have a little discussion with me. I love to hear other perspectives. I love to go back and forth and just really see how small-minded we can actually be. And not to say you're small-minded, but just me. I'm a small-minded person, me personally. I can't speak for anybody else. And I really enjoyed listening to you and hearing your perspective. And I hope you know that it's not about me validating, it's about you validating you. But I'm still going to validate you and say that I think you're doing a phenomenal job. It is a long process and it
Oh,
takes another step every single time, and you're fucking kicking ass. And I hope you guys were able to learn some stuff from her about putting those boundaries down, going on that pendulum swing so that you can eventually start moderating and get to that level where you're a badass, confident individual. And with that, I will leave you guys to it and I will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.